Hey there, I'm Alan Matthews from Classical Guitar Shed, and in this video we are going to be talking about the 10 biggest mistakes people make in their classical guitar practice. Maybe not the biggest, but very common and very big mistakes. At the end of this, you'll also hear how to take a next step and get even better at practicing and creating a practice so that you constantly get better, see improvement, and cover all the bases that you'd like to in your practice so that you have a good, fulfilling, rich and rewarding musical practice. And now, without further ado, let's get to the 10 big mistakes people make in practicing. Number one, playing too fast. Just slow down. You can't see anything at 80 miles an hour. Slow down, pay more attention, and you'll get better faster. Number two, always starting at the beginning of a piece. Instead of starting at the beginning each time, create multiple places throughout your piece that you can start. That way, if you need to break in the middle, if you mess up someplace, if you're actually performing or playing for somebody, you won't have to go all the way back to the beginning. Also, what happens is that you play the beginning a million times and the end only a few times. And so then there's a disparity between the two. Number three, practicing too large of sections. Instead, if you want to have a more productive practice, just bite off a small chunk and practice that. Practice your music in small bits instead of large sections, when you're first learning it anyway. Number four, inconsistent fingerings. This goes with both hands. If you're learning a piece of composed music, figure out right at the very beginning which hand in the right hand and which hand in the left hand you're actually going to play each note of the entire piece with. That way you'll learn more quickly and it'll just be a more direct route to playing the piece beautifully. Number five, stopping at the bar lines. When you're practicing your music with the music, go one note past the bar line. It'll be much more musical. The bar lines are not very musical. They cut the music in a very awkward place. They look good on the page, but they're not stopping places. Go one note past the bar line. Number six, not keeping the intention to memorize. Even if you don't want to memorize, or if you're terrified of memorizing your music, still just say, I want to memorize this music, and your brain will perk up in different ways, and you'll actually just learn the piece faster. So even if you don't really think that you can memorize, or if you don't care to memorize, just pretend like you're going to memorize and you'll learn faster. Number seven, big mistake, playing music that's just too difficult for you. Instead of playing big, hard pieces and saying, look what I can't do, play easier pieces, go deeper, and really work on the nuances of playing beautifully. It's much more satisfying and rewarding to play something beautifully than to play the million notes but play them absolutely poorly. And sadly, a lot of people do this. So are you playing music that's too difficult for you? Back off and play some easier music. Number eight problem that people have in their practice is not practicing through a problem long enough to actually solve the problem. So instead of bouncing around constantly, stick with one thing long enough to actually see some improvement, then go to something else. It doesn't mean you have to absolutely be the master of the universe in that special little thing. If you're working on your scales, you don't have to be the best scale player in the world, but just long enough so that you can see some improvement before bouncing to something else. Number nine, and this is similar as well, playing with poor technique or just not studying technique at all. So a lot of people get into classical guitar because they love the music, which is completely understandable. But we have technique and we have the pieces, and they both need to be rising at the same time. If you only practice pieces without studying any technique, then you're just going to be playing pieces, like we said earlier, harder pieces, but with bad technique, and they're not going to sound as good anyway. So we need to practice technique and we need to practice our pieces. And this leads to number 10. The biggest problem that people have in their practice is not having a practice plan, not having any sort of trajectory, not having something that they know that they're going to be doing so that they can actually then see improvement and sit down and get to work practicing. And instead, they have to sit down and actually decide what to practice, which takes up mental energy that could be spent practicing. If you would like to know more about how to create your ultimate practice, what are the things that you should be paying attention to in practice? How can you structure your practice so that you get the most done in the least amount of time and see the most improvement constantly and have the most fun in your practice? See below for a very short course. It's $7, very inexpensive. Feel free to browse it. Click below. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.